They gon' make a sister act up. Turn my attitude back up. Get it back, get it back, get it back. Count the money up. Call the girls up for backup. Yeah.
What's up, good people? Welcome back to my channel. And today's topic is Let's Talk Tuesday. Generation X versus Generation Z. So I have my daughter here with me today, Sierra. She is obviously in Generation Z. And I also have another daughter who's 14. She's in Generation Z as well. So you can tell that by the gray hairs that I have in my hair that we are trying to find this balance of understanding each other, because we just don't. So this video is for me and for you guys who needs it.
Yeah, not just you. All of Generation X. All of y'all.
I want to understand this generation better. So I asked my daughter to hop on the camera with me just to give her side of things, her viewpoint. And you know, as a Generation Xer, you know, we have to find balance as far as to listen to the younger generations. It's all about respect, in a respectful way.
Yeah, it's the line between disrespect and just disagreeing.
Right. So we have to sit down and just hear these young kids out, because their viewpoints is just as important, because they've been going through a lot, you know, especially with the pandemic. They've seen a lot in this election, this whole
lifetime
presidency, this lifetime in 2020. They've seen a lot, so their input is just as valuable as ours. So this is the video so I can just hear her side of things, hear her out, you know, how she feel about things, how life is going for her and everything. So all right, the first thing I want to touch on is just the times have changed, right? So for me, being a Generation X person, and my husband, I was raised by baby boomers, and he was raised by the silent generation. So it's a lot different. That in itself is a gap on how we were raised. So for us to come together and raise our daughters, you know, we took a lot of what we learned from our parents, plus incorporated what we've learned ourselves throughout the years. So with that being said, like I can remember my mom, and this was funny to me because rap was really introduced around my generation in the 70s. So you know, my parents did not understand what they were saying. They didn't understand the jump, you know, from disco era to the rap era. It was like it was all fast. Everything was coming at them at, you know, all at one time. I was a big back in that day, gosh, it was so many different rappers. I mean, I was just so into different music, and I can remember my mom saying, "What are they saying?" And I find myself doing the same thing with these Generation Z, this type music. I just like, what are they saying?
But a lot of Generation Z, I think it's a stark difference, because there is a lot of Generation Z who also feels the same way, because this new music is not just from Generation X or millennial music changing to Generation Z music. It's not really music anymore. There's very few people who generate like actual meaningful music nowadays. So a lot of us agree on that point, but it's like a lot of people nowadays, they just don't care. They want something with a good beat, and which is fine, you know. Things are changing. The standards have changed starkly. That's mainly the thing. It's like you don't have to be a superstar, super duper unique, or super duper, you know, have some sort of huge talent. As long as you know the right people and have, you know, the right connections, you can get to where you want to be. So yeah, I think it's just, you know, we know that, you know, this music is not like the greats before, which is why a lot of us still listen to older music. We have a lot of Generation Z is a stark that everybody has a different taste, but I think we all kind of connect on everybody's music. You know, a lot of people listen to alternative music, rock music, this day's music, older music. It's like we have range.
Yeah, that's what I can say I respect about you guys, because y'all have range of music. Y'all can listen to pop, K-pop, bop, it doesn't matter what it is. Y'all can then come back around to soul, R&B, hip hop.
Yeah, we can go from today's music and connect with today's music, but also connect and feel with, you know, music from decades ago. So
yeah, y'all are more diverse.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, my generation, we like different types of music, but we have that one niche, right? Like we have that one genre that we love and we'll stick to. Like for me, it's more so our old school. Like I'm a 90s head. Even to this day, I prefer to pop on something 90s and not even listen to today's music. So, you know, that we have in common, because she loves the 90s. She loves everything about the 90s.
I like
music.
Mostly like 90s. I was huge 90s when I first got into it. Now I'm more so like I can listen to 70s and 80s, and then like early 2000s is like, you know, nostalgic for me because, you know, I was born in the early 2000s. So I think overall that's the music that I probably enjoy the most, because, you know, that's something I can actually like connect to with actually being present and remembering those things. So I think that's also how a lot of us are too. Now don't get me wrong, there's a lot of, you know, ignorant Generation Zers and a lot of people who just don't really, because that's not really a lot of who they grew up on. It all depends on who you're raised by, no matter what generation you are. So if they were raised in a household that always listened to current music throughout the years, they're not really gonna know, you know, much about what, you know, led to that music. So it is what it is, you know. It just depends on the person, honestly, no matter what generation.
Yeah, so I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. Let's talk, not really politics, but let's talk, because this year was your first year voting, and your first time voter. So how do you feel about what's going on today? You know, how do people in your generation view the world today?
A hot mess, really. I think I wouldn't say it's a lot of us that still care. I mean, of course we're still gonna care, but it was just I think a lot of people don't give Generation Zers credit for witnessing the amount of things that they witnessed in that lifetime. Like I think we probably witnessed a good bit more crazy things, you know, in our short, you know, period of life thus far than a lot of people before us have. So going from a lot of us Generation Zers were raised during the Obama administration, you know, or just, you know, just remembering the last part of Bush and mostly, you know, growing up during the Obama administration. So going from that to going from Trump being in office in 2016, being like 15, almost 16 years old, was definitely a crazy difference. And I think a lot of us were really not prepared, and we were spoiled because, you know, to everybody before us, it was just such an amazing thing to see. And we understood, you know, why they were amazed, but, you know, we kind of felt, you know, entitled to that. We were like, of course, I mean, of course there should be a black person in office, and not really understood, you know, really at that time how huge of a deal it was. So having him, you know, of course every president, you know, isn't super duper perfect, you know. A lot of people disagree with some of the things he did, but he made a huge change, and at least he was presidential. You know, he respected everybody. Instead of just blatantly, you know, and he worked really hard to get to where he got. And seeing that, and then seeing like somebody who clearly, you know, had no sort of preparation, doesn't really care whether or not he's in office. He feels very entitled to that position. So a lot of us with sense, you know, want him out of there. You know, some people don't agree with what Biden's doing, but I think a lot of us really, you know, after witnessing just the pure ignorance, especially if you took any sort of history class, or, you know, have ever met people in general, you know, somebody like that is really not supposed to be in charge of hundreds of millions of people.
He wasn't qualified, you know, then, and he's not qualified now.
You don't, I don't think you should be able to run an office for a country that is literally mixed with thousands of different people, when you couldn't care less about, you know, anyone outside of rich white people. I mean, a lot of poor white people think that they care about him too, them too, but he really doesn't. So just going from that and everything going on at the same time, it's like a lot of us are kind of numb to it. We're seeing the things that we've seen, especially through social media, is like crazy, because a lot of people couldn't fathom seeing anything like that in everyday life, but just scrolling past it every day, just different crazy news from all over the world. You really are numb to it, especially growing up in an era I think a lot of people don't talk about. We're pretty much the first generation to grow up in an era with nothing but school shootings.
I was about to touch on that, because in my era we didn't have to worry about that, going to school and mass shootings or anything like that. Now, we did have a couple of knuckleheads that brought guns to school or started trouble and fighting in the hallway, so that didn't change. That still goes on today. But school shootings, we never had to worry about.
That's the craziest thing that I think a lot of us don't realize often, is that school shootings were really just starting to happen, like literally right before a lot of us were born, especially people in my class who were born in 2000 or 2001. So that was just starting early on, from like 6th grade with the Sandy Hook shooting. And then from after that, it was just every year it was another school shooting.
Else. And I think for me though, in the 90s when they had the Oklahoma City bombing, and the guy bombed the daycare center, like that to me was like the saddest thing ever, because children were involved. Right. But as you got on, throughout the years, it was sort of like with the other mass shooting at the school. I forget where it was now.
Which one, Parkland?
No, before Parkland. It was I can't remember.
I don't remember.
Columbine.
Oh
my gosh. Thank you, off camera.
That was the one I was talking about, from 1999. Columbine.
That shook the world, because that was the first that I know of school shooting was Columbine. So just to have somebody going to a school when you think you send your kids to school to be safe, and then this happens, and now it made you think of, maybe I should homeschool my child because it's not safe for them to go to school. So just that was in the millennial age. But for this Generation Z, you guys have seen a lot
of things,
a lot of violence, a lot of, like, even with the stuff that's been going on for the last 6 months about the killings from the police with George Floyd and
that started really
Breonna Taylor, and it's so y'all have seen a lot, and for y'all to now that was going on in our day as well, but it's more so now. It's like, for you guys to actually see that, we never thought that our kids would have to experience that, because we saw stuff like that. So in 2020, for you guys to see, that stuff come across social media, because we didn't have social media back in the day. We just heard word of mouth or watched the news or read the newspaper.
It really desensitizes. I think it's starting with the school shootings. It like from then on, and then like right after all of those crazy shootings that really started happening, like the turn of the decade 2010. That's when a lot of us were starting to get phones and stuff like that. So really, social media, that stuff started right then. So witnessing, and a lot of it's so many things that our generation has seen at such a young age. So many legends that we've seen die at an early age. So many shootings, and then you have social media on top of that. So you have a lot of the suicide rate went up because of that, and they had to coach us really young, really early, with the shootings and stuff like that. We were learning about Columbine, right off the rip. Like as soon as you hit middle school, you learn about Columbine. And so from that on, you learn, okay, you have to go to school, you have to protect yourself, you have to do this, you have to do that. And then you have all of that going on at the same time. It's overwhelming. So I think a lot of us have learned, like a lot of people from the 90s, they would be like, they wouldn't even fathom having to go through all of that at one time.
Because it's like the only thing that we had to deal with was fire drills or tornado drills, but they have active shooter drills in schools, and that's the saddest thing, because your kids shouldn't have to go through that. Nobody should have to go through that active shooter. Now we have that on our jobs. we have active shooter drills where we, know what to do, because it was happening in jobs before it got to schools, where somebody would come to the job angry because they got fired or whatever. They come to the job and
or like a spouse
right, a spouse would come up to the job, but it was like never in schools. But now it's more prevalent in schools, and that shouldn't be. It just shouldn't be.
Like our teachers telling us, like, okay, well, if somebody were to come in the room, you guys know I have to sacrifice like my life to make sure that y'all are okay. From then on, y'all start, y'all work out, what you're gonna do amongst yourselves. Like, y'all gotta survive. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna do what I have to do, but y'all gonna have to figure it out. So from then on, a lot of that stuff, it definitely just desensitized us. We've seen a lot of, through social media, you see a lot of death. You see, a lot of that stuff firsthand, that with like people who grew up before us, I won't just say the 90s, anybody who grew up before this time, you had to be there to see that in person. And now it's like you don't even have to be there. You just have to
on your timeline
accidentally scroll past something every day. It's every day. So yeah, a lot of that, desensitized us to everything that's going on right now. So a lot of us, we're taking a different approach. We don't really, I wouldn't say we don't care, because I mean, we're still human, but it's not something that affects us as much. Like, we don't have, I think, especially being born right, after or right before 9/11, that was basically when the world really changed around. That was when a lot of people, their eyes were really uncovered to how horrible this world can really be. Black people have been through a lot before that time, but even they were surprised about just how
malicious and callous, or heartless somebody could be.
It's just like how really horrible this world can be, especially America. America is very very painted to be very cookie cutter, even though we know it's not. But I think a lot of people all around were just surprised, like, okay, like, and the focus was taken off of Black people too. It was put more so on Muslims and stuff like that. So we also grew up in the what was it? What do you call that? Terror attacks, like a terror attack era. So it's just a lot of that stuff. It's like we got to go out here and we're gonna live our life.
They really seen a lot. Like in their day, they seen a lot.
Yeah, we just think we got to go out here and we got to live our life, and we're not gonna really let anybody stop us from doing that, because we don't have this rainbow color painting of life like a lot of people think we do. A lot of people don't give us a lot of credit. We've seen some pretty horrible stuff. So we just out here to live, to do what we want to do. We're not going to let people from older generations, stop us from doing that, but just because it's different. A lot of people get on us a lot because the way that we look at things, the way that we go about things, the way that we get things. I think a lot of people are kind of jealous, I would want to say.
Well, see, I want to touch on that, and I want to wrap this up because I don't want this video to get too long, but you're making some good points. But I just wanted to kind of wrap this up with some takeaways on how do you think that my generation can better understand your generation in the aspect of your future goals. How do you see the future? Because from our standpoint, we think college is the answer for everybody. And when you turn 18, our first thing is you have to do this, or you have to do this, or you have to do this. But that life ain't for everybody.
It's not, especially nowadays. Didn't mean to cut you off, but that's literally, I think, the biggest thing that a lot of us want previous generations to know is that times have changed starkly, very much since people before us, since millennials, even Generation X, the silent generation, baby boomers, all of that. Like, it has changed. Things are quick. Things are quick. A lot of us have I think it's kind of like life is kind of like a tunnel for us. Like, we can't really see what's ahead. Whereas people before were like, they had plans, they had goals, and they could see far, far, far into the future. Us seeing so many things that we've seen and seeing things happen so quick and being able to see people's perspective of different things, different traumatic events and stuff all over the world. We have a today is today, and I'm gonna live my life for today. I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna get what I want to get. You know, I'm gonna try to reach my goals the best I can before I leave. Whereas, you know, we don't really have this sort of cookie cutter, you know, rainbow picture about life anymore. I think we just, and a lot of people just don't really understand that because of social media and the internet and everything like that, things come to us quicker naturally, just because that's how technology progressed. So that's when I was saying people were jealous. I think a lot of people are jealous of how easy things are in some ways. That doesn't mean it's easy all around. It doesn't mean that everything is easy for us, because in a lot of ways it's harder because of that. Technology is both a help and a hindrance in some aspects. So it's like, a lot of the previous generations think that we need to do things their way because that's how they were raised in tradition. A lot of things are tradition, and I think Generation Z,
tradition. It because, not to cut you off, but a lot of how my husband and I were raised was tradition. How their parents raised them. So we, you know, having kids, we try to put that on them, but this generation is not having that type of upbringing and raising. They're not having that, because that's, you know how our parents was raised doesn't mean that's how we should raise our kids.
A more realistic point of view, honestly, seeing social media and everything like that, things have changed so much. And I'm not saying this in a bad way, because a lot of us, we carry on the good parts of tradition, but I think what a lot of us in Generation Z are doing is kind of like, if I had one sentence for it, I think we're breaking tradition. We're breaking tradition. You know, we're making new traditions. You know, we're keeping, you know, that doesn't mean breaking tradition is not always breaking morals. A lot of people think that, but there's bad traditions. And I think a lot of what we're doing is we're breaking bad traditions, like as far as mental health goes, as far as family secrets, as far as, you know, just because I'm older, I'm right. That no, just because I'm older, I don't get to respect you. No, that I think that's what we're doing, is we're breaking those bad traditions. We're saying, hey, you know, please know that we're not trying to purposefully disrespect older people. What we're doing is, just as you demand that same respect, you should give it to those younger than you. Because a lot of people who are younger than you, just because you're older doesn't mean you're wise and all-knowing.
Right, that's true. I mean,
it's from person to person. So, you know, of course, if somebody's truly being disrespectful to you, then, you know, call them out. But I think a lot of people, because of tradition, they think disrespect is disagreeing with you, or disrespect is because I know a little bit more than you on this subject, I'm disrespecting you. And that's not the truth. That as long as I present it to you in a respectful way, and I'm talking to you, and I'm not calling you out your name, I'm not saying, you know, I'm not calling you by your name, I'm not saying yes ma'am or yes sir or no ma'am or no sir. I think a lot of people really have to realize that, is that just because I'm sharing my opinion, and I'm not just going to let you say anything to me just because you're older and you can, doesn't mean, you know, I'm being disrespectful. And I think that's a lot of what Generation Z wants the older generations to know, is that we're just breaking bad traditions. We're not trying to disrespect anybody. We're just trying to live this life while we can, because things happen quick for us. It's more, we have a today only type of perspective. We go day from day. So that's really, I think, all we want y'all to know, is that just respect what we do and how we go about it, just as much as, you know, we respect what you did and how you went about it. Things are different. Things are not the same.
I respect that. And see, I respect that. See, this whole video was for me to give her the floor, to let her show you guys who are Generation X, or who have kids that are Generation Z, that don't necessarily know how to talk to them, or I can't understand them. This is the platform I wanted her to just share what she's thinking and her thoughts, because a lot of times we do hush our kids up. Hey, you hush, you stay in your place, you be quiet, you don't do this, you don't. But we have to give them respectfully their voice to talk and to say how they feel. But then our job is to instruct them on how they should do, you know, what things they should try, or how they should move through life. And that's all we can do.
Give your advice, you know, based off of your experience, but don't think that your experience, you know,
it's
directly
supposed to be your experience.
directly relates to mine, or is the way that I'm supposed to go, because in this economy, in this world, like literally education has changed, and that's coming up with a generation, you know, a little bit younger than us. They're learning off of computers. There's kindergartners going to school via camera. So, you know, it's just a lot of the morals around things have not changed, but you gotta give your advice the best that you can, and in the areas that it's needed, you know, and have the respect for us and give us the room and the space to, you know, make our own decisions based off of said advice, because, you know, things are not the same. Things go differently now. There's a lot more people who need to live with their parents. So don't any family members, if you want to disrespect you know, disrespect anybody, or your nieces, your nephews, your grandkids that are still living with their parents, it's a different day and age.
It's a different day and I understand. Me and my husband respect that, and we have our doors open for you to figure life out. But just know that we want the best for you. And we're going to push you in any way we can to get you to where you need to be, and for you to reach your goals in life. So our doors is open for you and your sister if y'all need to stay here until you get on your feet. My husband shaking his head no, but until you get on your feet, until you figure things out. And I think that's a lot of things. That's something. The doors is open.
That's something that more parents, please have that, at least, you know, be open to that. Things are not the same. You can't just walk into a place on any random day and get a job just because, you know, that's the way things are. They go about things differently. You have to have, you know, a lot of times you don't really have to have, you know, a 4-year college experience to get a super awesome opportunity. Especially that's opens up a huge field with social media and networking and entertainment. Entertainment has changed. People are going on YouTube and making money that way. People are doing TikTok and making money. There's so many different ways to make money and be successful and reach your dreams without going to school and in a faster way. So please just understand that times are changing, and it's not the same for us as it was for y'all. So in a lot of ways, it's a lot harder. So all I'm saying is just be understanding. You know, be empathetic, and that goes both ways. We need to be more understanding of your generation and empathetic towards your generation. I think it's just a respect thing. I think everybody should just respect each other and give each other the room and the space to, you know, process certain things and deal with certain things differently than you did.
So I think this is a perfect time to end this video. I appreciate you doing this video with me. I love to hear your viewpoint and you to share how you feeling. And I thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for the next video, and don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, and come back. We love y'all. Bye bye.